The doors of your car will close automatically. Please keep your head and arms inside and remain seated at all times. And please, no smoking. Thank you.
Matterhorn Matt presents Matterhorn Mondays.
Hey there, Mountaineers. Welcome to episode 8 of Matterhorn Mondays. I'm Matterhorn Matt, and this week my guest is Alex, the historian. Say hi, Alex.
Hello, everybody.
And he has his own YouTube channel, so why don't you go ahead and tell us so the new viewers know who you are?
Sure. Well, I have a YouTube channel where I have 3 shows. My main show is a lecture series where I kind of talk about each ride and its history all the way up till today. Then I have another show. It's a vlog series where I go into the park and talk about places or items of historical interest. And then finally, I have a third show where I talk about my thoughts on certain projects and things happening in the park.
Yeah, guys, he's got a super awesome channel, and if you aren't subscribed to him already, I'd definitely recommend you checking him out. And I just wanted to say right off the bat, I apologize if there's any gaps or anything in Alex's voice. My internet over here in New Mexico isn't really the best, but I'm just making
And I'd like to apologize if they hear my dog barking in the background. I can't get rid of him.
So there's 2 things, guys, you can't get mad at us about because we apologize for them up front. Let's see. Today's topics are Frontierland, what extinct attraction we'd bring back, and what would Walt think about Disneyland and just Disney in general if he were alive today. So, Alex, on this Friday the 13th, well, that's the day we're recording, not the day that this is going to drop, but on this Friday the 13th, what are your overall thoughts on what Frontierland needs, repair-wise, expansion-wise, just anything?
So we had been talking about Frontierland and Fantasyland and Tomorrowland, and this time I wanted to talk about Frontierland. And it's got some attractions like Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, and it's got Mark Twain Riverboat and Sailing Ship Columbia, but there's not really much else there. I mean, before it used to have things like the Pack Mules, and it used to have Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, all kinds of cool stuff. And now it used to be one of the biggest lands in the park. I think it was actually the biggest took up most of the west side. And now today it's one of the smaller lands in the park. And so I was just kind of thinking about some things that we could maybe add to it or fix up. And starting with that, I think would be to look at Big Thunder Mountain Railroad, because it recently went under refurbishment and had some new special effects done. But now those special effects kind of aren't working. I mean, the finale of the attraction has like this explosion effect where the sticks of dynamite are exploding and you see smoke coming out, and the smoke is projected with fire effects, and that's what's supposed to happen, but that special effect is never working, and maintenance isn't seeming to do anything about it. So that's something that really needs to be looked at. Also, the way that Frontierland looks, like the ground and everything needs to be touched up. I mean, there's potholes everywhere and things like that, and it just looks terrible. But anyway, then I was thinking about Frontierland as itself. Like, I was there today in Frontierland, and I looked at the Frontierland shooting range, and there's like no one there. And I thought about it. I'm like, is a shooting exposition really that popular nowadays?
Yeah.
Like, what's it? And I don't know. The wheels in my head were kind of turning, and I was thinking, like, what could we do to spice up Frontierland? And I was thinking about, like, what if we just kind of created space by getting rid of Rancho del Zocalo and the Frontierland shooting range, and kind of added in a ride right there. Like, I was trying to think of different things that we could do there, but One of the things would be like some kind of like uh, mine shaft ride or something like that,
Yeah,
kind of
okay.
along the reins of like Tower of Terror, but a
Mhm.
mine shaft,
Mhm.
or like let's see, what else was I thinking? Something along the lines of like Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland, but kind of smaller,
Mhm.
you know. So I was just thinking about stuff like that, and the wheels in my head were kind of turning, and I was just kind of thinking like, I wish there was another ride in Frontierland, even on Tom Sawyer's Island. I mean, now they reduced its size, but back before they reduced its size, they had this huge northern part of the island that wasn't used. And I thought about what is it, Frontierland in Paris, Disneyland,
Mhm.
and they have Big Thunder Mountain on the island. And I just thought, like, what if we had a ride on the island, or a
Yeah.
few rides on the island? Even like spinner rides or whatever. Um, I'm always thinking of new rides and things, so that's why. Um, and then I thought about like, you know, if we don't do a ride, what about like retheming Rancho del Zocalo? Like, what if it was like a Toy Story restaurant where it's like Woody and Jesse and
Mhm.
Bullseye, and and it's kind of like Western themed instead of just like Mexican food.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, then again, a lot of people would be like, "Come on, Frontierland is fine the way it is. Don't mess it up." You know. I don't
Yeah.
know.
I mean, let's see. Frontierland is an interesting land because when Disneyland was built, that was when westerns were, I guess you could say, at its peak, and Walt wanted to add that to his park, and now 60 years later westerns have basically died off. I mean, I haven't seen a western movie that's been released in theaters recently. Um Yeah, I mean, I've never actually eaten at the Rancho del Zocalo, or I can never pronounce it right, but I think that's how it's said. But I've heard good things about its Mexican food and all that. And yeah, I mean, when I was a kid, I used to love like shooting ranges. As a kid, you're always, I don't want to say always wanting to like shoot guns and stuff, but it's true. That's how a lot of kids were. But nowadays, kids just aren't, I guess, interested by that. And since it's like not actual bullets, shooting at the, which is understandable, they wouldn't want guests shooting each other or anything. But yeah, I'd agree if they took out the shooting range and I guess the restaurant there too and replaced it with I guess like a mini ride, like you said. And I was one of the ones hoping that they would add some sort of Rainbow Cavern scene to the railroad when they reopened it a couple months ago, but that didn't happen, and I was sad.
Oh yeah, I wish that they had did that. They could have done it, but they just didn't.
Yeah, there's plenty of room to do that back on the tracks back there, but I don't know why.
Yeah. Like what if there was a ride that was built where Rancho del Zocalo and the shooting range is, and what if it was like, like the Rainbow Caverns part of
Mhm.
the mine train? Like what about if you go through that, and like, I don't know, what if it was an interactive ride too, like where you
Yeah.
kind of like, I don't know, you have like a pickaxe or something, and you gotta like you gotta strike at the at the jewels or something, and I don't know, you earn points. I don't know.
No, that sounds cool. Uh,
Sounds kind of dumb. It's like someone's got a pickaxe and you're just throwing it around. But like something kind of interactive. Like we got those
mhm.
interactive rides now, and I think that would be kind of cool in that spot. I mean, once again, Rancho del Zocalo, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a great restaurant,
Yeah.
but I don't know. I want another Frontierland ride.
Yeah, I mean, it only has Big Thunder Mountain, right?
Yeah, I mean, you could count the Mark Twain Riverboat, but I mean, it's like
Oh, yeah.
that's it. I mean, it's I don't want to say anything bad. I would like another thrill ride, please.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean the restaurant there has like really great views of the tracks where Big Thunder Mountain goes, and I guess that's the only thing I'd really want to preserve. I'd totally be down with getting rid of those two and adding a second ride to Frontierland.
Yeah, I mean, and what if, okay, like what if it were like so we were just saying that it would be like the Rainbow Caverns portion. What if they moved a restaurant into there? So it's like
Yeah.
it's kind of like Blue Bayou, but it's like dark and you're in this cavern, you
Mm-hmm.
know? How cool would that be?
That
Be
sounds
like
actually really awesome.
be like Blue Bayou for poor people.
Yeah, definitely. Oh man, I had a point that I was gonna bring up. Yeah, I'm one of the ones that is super sad that I never got to experience the mine train through Nature's Wonderland and the Rainbow Caverns as well.
Oh yeah, me too. I always wish that I could have done like seen that or something.
Yeah, because
You
I've
know,
heard.
it's kind of. Oh, sorry.
Oh no,
What were
you
you
go
gonna
ahead.
say? I was gonna say it's kind of interesting because they still have like portions of it like over by Big Thunder Pond where
Mm-hmm.
like it used to go around the Cascade Peak and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and that area is still there. And I kind of just wish like there was something there, like more part of it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, even you know what? Just came right off the top of my head. What if like that that little mine train ride we were just thinking of? What if somehow it also kind of went over there and then went around that curve that it used to go through?
Yeah.
You
Okay.
know, like what if it? I don't know. Maybe underground and then it goes up over to that. I don't know. You know, the sky's the limit. But
Yeah.
I'd like to see
Absolutely.
something.
Yeah. I mean, I found it strange that they kept that little cave there in the bear. I think it's called like the bear pond or something like that because it's. I don't want to say it's an eyesore because to people like I'm sure you and I, we know like the historical significance of it and what it was before. And I don't know. I kind of wish they would have gotten rid of it and replaced it with something different and a ride that would actually utilize those tracks would be kind of cool, you know, right? Like a slower train ride right next to Big Thunder. That would be cool.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and then you think about it, that would be one of those kind of rides that the whole family could go on.
Yeah.
You know, because kids can't ride like Big Thunder. They have to be, you know, so tall, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, it'd be great if they could ride something that was slower. I mean, I'm really liking this idea of like a Rainbow Caverns ride, you know, and then it somehow goes underneath Big Thunder and then comes out the other side where Bear Pond is and
Mm-hmm.
where the old tracks used to be. That'd be really cool.
Yeah, and I'm thinking about it. I think the only way that they'd be able to actually make something like this would be to have a large portion of it underground, maybe, since a lot of that area is already occupied by a lot of stuff. Like Big Thunder Trail is there, and what else? Oh well, yeah. Well, Star Wars Land is going to be right behind it, but yeah, I'm thinking they'd have to do some literal digging to get this to work.
Well, you know where Zocalo Park is, the little area that they decorate to Dia de los Muertos for
Yeah.
Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the mine train could go like through an underground tunnel under that area. So kind of just making a big round U-turn right in front of Big Thunder without actually having to go underneath Big Thunder.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I don't know. That could be a cool idea. Or like, oh, yeah, here's another one. There could be like a trestle bridge that kind of weaves through
Ah.
Big Thunder and then goes to that area.
Yeah. That sounds cool.
Yeah, that's exciting. Oh,
Yeah, why shouldn't we should be the Imagineers, Bob Iger. No, just kidding. um, let's see. I had one more thing. Maybe I didn't. I don't know. Are there any other things that you wanted to bring up about Frontierland?
um,
Oh, I remember. Utilizing the space on Tom Sawyer's Island because I've went for the first time in a really long time on Tom Sawyer's Island on my last trip to Disneyland, and a lot of it wasn't working. Like the little ship thing with like the skeletons and the treasure chest where you can like turn a wheel or something and the treasure chest comes out of the ground. I don't remember what it was, but that wasn't working. And the only reason I actually went there was to get pictures of the Star Wars land construction. And a lot of it was I feel like was for kids because I couldn't fit into those little passageways that they have winding through the island because I'm like 6 feet tall, but my sister could fit through no problem. And yeah, it would be really neat if they had Big Thunder on that island, like you said, and how they have in Paris. But if they did that, they'd have to. I don't know what would happen to Fantasmic if they got rid of, or just completely demolished Tom Sawyer's Island and put something else there.
Oh, you mean like just replace the river altogether, or? Oh,
Like,
well,
yeah.
that's. Well, they could save the portion of the river that is like south over by where New Orleans Square is and all that,
Mm,
and it's just like the northern end that wouldn't, you know. But then again, you'd have like a lot of people who would be really against that.
yeah, that's true. Well,
Like,
then
I think the
again,
rivers of America is.
oh, I was gonna say, well, then again, that's why I'm not the Imagineer.
First, you wanted to give yourself the responsibility. Now you don't want the responsibility.
Oh man, it's been a confusing episode so far.
Oh gosh. Well, that's all I have on that. So.
Oh yeah, yeah, that's all I had too. I mean, Golden Horseshoe, I love the Golden Horseshoe. I love the shows that they do there. I wouldn't want them to touch or change anything about that because I don't know, it's just the novelty of seeing the shows. They always manage to make me laugh and yeah, I don't know how you feel about the shows at the Golden Horseshoe.
Oh, I think the shows are really interesting. I mean, I really miss Billy Hill and the Hillbillies, so I wish that they would come up with something that was just as fun as that, or even something along the lines of the Golden Horseshoe Review that used to be there. Wish they would kind of bring that back. That'd be really cool.
Yeah. Well, maybe one day when we become Imagineers.
Well, you know what else I miss is ever since Big Thunder Barbecue went away, I've been like really missing like a barbecue restaurant. And I know that
Yeah.
River Bell is like that, but River Bell is more like fancy barbecue.
Mm-hmm.
So it's, I liked the whole like, all you can eat, bring out the buckets of meat.
Yeah. I am so sad that I never got to eat there. My family and I were devastated when I told them that they were demolishing Big Thunder Ranch for Star Wars Land of all things. Darth Vader better have some chicken for me over in his Star Wars Land, or else I'm gonna be knocking at Bob Iger's door.
Oh yeah, I don't know. Can you imagine like what kind of food will be in Star Wars Land? Like weird, like
Yikes.
they might like they might take like a half chicken and add like a bunch of extra drumsticks to it. Make it look like a weird alien chicken.
I mean, I don't know. I don't even want to get into what kind of weird food they're going to be serving there because I'm hoping it'll be, delicious and not too weird.
Yeah.
But that's a topic for potentially another podcast. Food in the Disney parks has been on my mind recently, but let's move on to the next
A good
topic.
topic.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, what topic should we have for next week? And I was like, I love food. Who doesn't love food? We should talk about Disneyland food. But moving on to the next topic, what extinct attraction would we bring back? Now, I want to lay at least one ground rule. We can't say the People Mover because that's an obvious
Oh,
choice for a lot of people. So, People Mover's out. We gotta dig deep to find which one we bring back. So, what are your thoughts, Alex?
Oh man, that's the one. Okay. Okay. Is it okay if I said adventure through inner space?
Yes, I was gonna say that actually too. Now I have to
Now,
think of a different one.
yeah, I mean, well, what's funny was someone was saying like, well, what was it? I was talking about my Tomorrowland episode on my channel,
Mm.
and I was saying that, oh, eventually Star Tours might go away, but they could replace it with a Big Hero 6 ride.
Mm-hmm.
Well, someone else said, what if they used the old Star Tour simulators and created an adventure through inner space simulator ride? And I thought, that's a really good idea. Like,
Yeah.
can you imagine, like, an action-packed adventure, like, being shrunk down to the size of an atom, and, like, avoiding, like, giant snowflakes and
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like, how cool would that be?
That sounds really awesome, actually. That actually reminds me a lot of Body Wars, the attraction that they had in Epcot a while back. It shrunk you down and took you inside the body, but yeah, that sounds actually really awesome. I would love to see something like that in the park.
Yeah.
Let's see. Now I have to think of a different attraction I would bring back. Oh boy, I would bring back Mine Train Through Nature's Wonderland.
Oh, I was gonna say that next.
I mean, we were both just talking about it, how we wish we would have gone on it and experienced it. I mean, I'm sure some of you will think that it sounds kind of boring, but I'm all about those slow-moving rides that just take you and you just see things,
Yeah, no, I agree entirely. Like, that's what I love about Disneyland is the slow moving rides.
Yeah.
I mean, like, everybody wants stuff to go faster, but I'm like, I don't want the ride to end,
Yeah, absolutely. Oh my gosh. Yeah. The only way they'd be able to do that is if they got rid of Big Thunder Mountain, and I wouldn't be willing to lose Big Thunder Mountain for the Mine Train ride, as surprising as that sounds.
No, that's true. I don't want to get rid of Big Thunder either. It's one of my favorites, but I wish that, just like what we were talking about, I wish that there'd be a way that they could weave it into Frontierland,
Yeah. Like, at least add, like, an homage to it, not just let it get forgotten into obscurity.
Exactly.
And let's see, did you have another one that you were gonna say?
Let me see. I'm sure I could think of one that went into extinction.
As long as you don't pick the same one that I do again.
No. Okay. So, this one, a lot of people probably wouldn't agree with me, but America Sings.
Okay, yeah.
I really wish America Sings was back. I mean, it was a good show. What's interesting? I just thought of it right now. I was at the little Starbucks on Main Street today, and somebody was watching a video of America Sings.
What?
Yes, right in there. And I was like, because I heard the music, and I'm like, oh my gosh. Then again, at the same time, I kind of also recognized one of my episodes, so maybe they were watching one of my episodes. Yeah, but anyway, yeah. So America Sings, like, a great attraction, and the only reason why it really went away was because it was losing popularity, but that's only because they weren't keeping it updated. They weren't, making it relevant to each passing year.
Yeah, and man, I've seen YouTube videos of it, obviously, but I don't know. I think I'd rather have the Carousel of Progress back than America Sings because I feel like it's more of a classic, and I'm sure I'd enjoy America Sings just as much as the Carousel of Progress because I'm all about those musical animatronic shows, but yeah, I guess that leads me into what I was going to say next, which is the Country Bear Jamboree, and that ride comes up a lot on this podcast when I'm talking about extinct rides that I love, because the Country Bear Jamboree for me is just amazing. And I went to the one in Walt Disney World a couple years back, and it's sad because my family and I were some of the only people in there, and I was having the time of my life, listening to these bears sing country songs, and it was just the best thing in the world. And I feel like those are the kinds of rides, those just sit down, relax, enjoy just what's going on in front of you. Those are the kinds of rides that Disneyland needs today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, what's great about the Carousel of Progress, and I don't know why I was so fascinated by it, but it was the way that the whole building would rotate.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's something kind of cool about transferring from scene to scene on a giant rotating theater. That was really cool.
Yeah, and I mean, Carousel of Progress, of course, it's a classic for everybody. I don't know a single person who dislikes the Carousel of Progress, but let's see, did you have a third one that you wanted to bring back?
Oh yeah. Yes. Okay. So this one is a ride that I feel just didn't get a good chance.
Okay.
And I would say it's Rocket Rods.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Rocket Rods was somewhat fun because, it was kind of labeled as a high-speed ride, but the problem is that it was located on the People Mover track, and the People Mover track was designed for a slow-moving, lightweight ride vehicle, not something that was, like 1,000,000 pounds and traveling super fast around corners. So the track couldn't withstand the G-forces that the vehicles would put out, and so they had to slow down the ride vehicles as they went around curves and things like that. But had the Rocket Rods had their own custom-built track and actual show scenes that it might pass through, I think that the ride would have been really great, because that's something that people kind of want, is a high-speed ride. So I kind of wish that they might bring back the Rocket Rods, but maybe themed to Tron.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So, instead of a rocket rod necessarily, maybe you're getting on board a light cycle, but not a roller coaster, just something that's kind of high speed and kind of weaves its way through Tomorrowland. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about this while I was making the very first episode of Historyland, which is on the People Mover. And in that episode, I talked about how the Rocket Rods just didn't perform, how it was always breaking down. And it's kind of sad because I was wishing that Disney would have found someone to sponsor the attraction to actually add banked turns to the People Mover tracks. And yeah, I mean, I was just thinking about it, it would have been interesting, going through Tomorrowland at such high speeds without all the slowing down and everything.
Oh yeah, totally. That would have been really fun.
Oh my gosh, I have to think of a third one now. Oh,
Yep.
Okay. I would bring back 20,000 Leagues Under, the original submarine attraction, because oh man, I don't know why I actually picked this. I just feel like I would like it better than Finding Nemo.
What?
I mean, don't get me wrong. I love, the movie Finding Nemo, Finding Dory, but I feel like it would, in my mind, I feel like it would fit better in Tomorrowland if it was just back as the original submarine ride.
Huh. Well, I don't know that. Well, okay, just to play with the thought, I think that it would probably work if the submarines were bigger, like they could hold more people, and were easier to get in and out of. Well, I guess that's not such a bad problem, but I think one of the biggest things is, like, I don't ever ride Finding Nemo's Submarine Voyage because the last 2 times I went on there, like, someone brought their baby with a full diaper on, and it smelled the whole thing. And then the time after that, someone like farted and it stayed in the thing. So I cannot go back in there. I mean, it was just, those 2 times were just so traumatizing that I will not go back in there unless they have like, you know, like some serious airflow in there, you know. But I think that if the submarines were bigger, had better airflow, yeah, I think that it could work. I mean, the other thing too is that it needs to be more efficient.
Yeah.
So, you know, it only handles about 800 something riders per hour. But if they could send out like 2 submarines at once, you know what? I have an idea. Okay, so there's a ride at Tokyo Disney Sea called 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. And I don't know if you've seen that, but it's kind of like, what do you call it? It's kind of like Peter Pan in the sense that the ride vehicle hangs suspended from a track above. And you glide through the underwater realms of the world, and you encounter things like a giant squid and stuff like that. And so it's honestly themed to 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, but it's a dark ride, and it looks really cool, as a matter of fact. So that's something I would like to see. I mean, I know it's not the same as being in a submarine, but you know, who knows? Maybe you know, that would be kind of cool.
Yeah, when I first saw that ride on YouTube, I was like, this is amazing. We should have something like that here in Disneyland. And it's funny because the ride never actually goes underwater. They just fill the double-paned glass with, I think they just fill it with bubbles, and it looks like you're underwater, but you're actually not. And I was like, that is such an ingenious idea. Whoever came up with that deserves $100.
Yeah, and the cool thing about the ride is like you have to point a light at like objects and things like that, and I don't know what it does. I think I don't know, you get some kind of points or something for it. It's an interactive ride. But it's an interesting idea, like flashing a light on an object and stuff like that, and it helps you out somehow. So that's really cool. I'm all for another dark ride.
Absolutely.
So do you think that would be an option, or do you think that it has to be the submarines?
No, I think that would be a better option than the submarines. because with that ride, you're like creating your own adventure, you know? You can go on the second time, shine the light on something you haven't noticed before, and it's like, what? I never knew that was there. And it's just like exciting. You find new things every ride.
Yeah. Oh, see, I'm already excited about that. I mean, the one thing I do like about the submarine voyage is that you're in a submarine. I mean, you know, it really feels so realistic. You know, even though it's Finding Nemo, I mean, it still feels like amazing to be underwater. But yeah, I think that a dark ride version, because I mean, I've seen the video too, and it's kind of cool how they have bubbles kind of flowing up the windows and stuff like that. So it feels like you're underwater, even though you're not really.
Yeah, one day we need to go to Tokyo Disney Sea, but let's see. Final attraction. What is your number 4 that you would bring back?
Ooh, let's see here. Final attraction. Think. Okay, I would like to see them bring back the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse.
Ah, yes. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I never thought I would say that, but because it's just a treehouse. But then again, it was a treehouse with all these working things, and it was kind of cool to see the kinetic movement of the special water system that they had that brought water to the top of the treehouse, and all these cool little things that you can interact with and touch. I mean, you go on Tarzan's treehouse and you can't touch anything.
Yeah.
Like you're just behind railings the whole time. But it'd be cool to have the Swiss Family Robinson treehouse and be able to interact with things and props that they have there. So I would like to see them do that. I mean, I would say I'm ready for Tarzan to go away and
Mm-hmm.
for Swiss Family Robinson to move back in. That would
Yeah.
be cool. The
I
only
mean,
thing. Oh, sorry.
no,
What
go
were you
ahead.
I was gonna say the only thing though, and I have to be an advocate for people with disabilities because if you have a certain disability that doesn't allow you to climb stairs, you can't really experience the attraction. So what I would like Disney to do is to find a way to rebuild the treehouse in such a way um, that if they took a type of elevator up
Hmm.
to one of the levels, then pretty much from there on out, the rest of the experience is really more of ramps and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So, for people who decide to climb the treehouse, they can climb up, a set of stairs, and then the rest of the treehouse is ramps to each other level,
Hmm.
and then a staircase at the end that leads back down. And then if you have a disability, like if you're bound to a wheelchair, then instead you would go up an elevator that took you up to the main level, and then you could go through the whole tree house because it has ramps everywhere, and then come back to the elevator that would take
Hmm.
you back down to ground level. So I think that would be kind of a good way to redo the tree house.
Yeah, I mean, if they themed the elevator, I feel like if they themed it to be look like it's made out of like bamboo or like sticks and twigs or something, I feel like that would be really cool. And man, I
Yeah,
don't.
and the water wheel, you know the
Mm-hmm.
water wheel, the water wheel could power the elevator.
Yes, yes, yes. This is the greatest idea I've ever heard. Oh my gosh. But yeah, like the Tarzan's treehouse is not very exciting because it's just a lot of walking.
Mhm.
And I heard someone say that if they put an Anna and Elsa meet and greet up at the top of Tarzan's treehouse, then the line would be out the window or out the door. But yeah.
Ugh, yeah, that's true.
Let's see. My final attraction to bring back would be the Skyway. Um, I feel like it offered a lot as an attraction, not just as a quote mode of transportation to get from Fantasyland to Tomorrowland, but it gives some really amazing aerial views of Disneyland that normal people wouldn't like be allowed to get unless you buy a drone or something. But I don't know, I just feel like there's something special about sitting and almost flying over Disneyland through the Matterhorn, where you get to see all the other riders riding through the attraction, and then I don't know, I just feel like there's just something awesome about that ride.
See, now this is where I have to disagree. I am
Oh.
I am so glad they got rid of it because someone would have dragged me on that ride and I would have peed my pants because I have a serious fear of heights.
Oh, okay.
And I went on the little buckets that they have at San Diego Zoo.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh. Being way above the trees, being several trees above the trees was a very frightening experience for me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know if I would have been able to handle being on the Skyway. I don't know, but
Yeah.
but I do like the little Swiss chalet that they had. I
Mm-hmm.
thought that was cool, and my favorite little thing about that was the writing on the side that said, "Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky."
Oh, I didn't know about that. That's super awesome.
What? You didn't know about what?
No, I didn't know
How
about
did you?
that.
Yeah. Do you know what that line is from?
uh, no. I want to say yes, but I can't think of it off the top of my head.
Well, that line is from Alice in Wonderland.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, it's what the dorm mouse sings. He says, "Up above the world you fly, like a tea tray in the sky," and
That's it.
that became the little lyric that was put on the side of the Swiss chalet of the Skyway.
Oh my gosh. I can't believe. Well, I actually watched for the very first time the original Alice in Wonderland a couple months ago. And I loved it, but I can't believe I didn't know that that was there. That's such a small little awesome detail. I'm sure that a lot of people overlook. And yeah, I mean, I'm like you. I have a fear of heights too, but I don't know. I'd still like to see the buckets, at least go over Disneyland because I think that would just look really cool.
Yeah. Well, I remember when they said that they were going to demolish the Skyway building.
Mm.
I went out there with my camera and took all sorts of pictures of the building because it was really nice looking. I mean, it looked like something out of like Switzerland. It was just really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sad that they demolished it too. I feel like they could have maybe repurposed it into like a little private, quiet place, like a seating area, but
Yeah. Well, you know what Disney likes to do now is have those little private areas where you buy like a boxed meal or something and it costs you
yeah.
like $65. Like they could have done that. Like they could have set up a nice little restaurant area up there and
Mm.
charged people an arm and a leg to get up there.
I would pay my arm and a leg to be able to sit up there and eat a sandwich.
I know. I got to, you know what? I got to walk up there once.
Really?
Uh-huh, 'cause I was there at night and okay, basically I kind of broke in. Um
Oh my gosh. I
I
hope
was
Disney's not listening right now.
Oh, that's okay. They can't do anything now. Um I was a new cast member at that point and I thought that because I worked at Disney I could pretty much just go anywhere I wanted.
Oh, yeah.
And so, I mean, I really did think that. I ended up like going to all kinds of rides, like Indiana Jones Adventure, and going backstage and like talking to the maintenance guys who are working on the ride vehicles. But anyway, I was in Fantasyland taking pictures of Fantasyland, which again you're not supposed to do when the park's closed.
Mm.
And I saw the Skyway building, and I thought, I've never been up there before. So I went and I climbed the stairs, and it was kind of difficult because all the trees had overgrown over the
Mm.
walkway. And I went up there, and the lights were on inside the building, and it was completely empty inside. I remember just completely empty. Um, but you could kind of tell where the old turntable was for
Yeah.
the Skyway, and then there were several uh, cat food bowls set out.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, there was tons of like cat food set out and drinking bowls and stuff like that for with water, and
Mm.
it was a cat feeding station.
That's actually super sweet that Disney would actually set up like a little I don't want to say like a house, but like a little, yeah, I guess like house for the cats. Oh, I bet they're sad that it's gone now. That makes me sad. Oh.
Yeah, and you know who took care of those cats
Mm-mm.
was Circle D Ranch. Uh,
Oh.
do you know about Circle D Ranch?
That's I feel like that's the ranch that closed, right?
Yes, that's the ranch that was behind Frontierland, where they
Yeah.
took care of all the horses for
Yes.
Disneyland. They
Oh.
took care of all the animals, like the goats and everything, and the cows.
Mm.
Circle D Ranch was basically like the veterinary care center for the entire park,
Mm.
and they were in charge of feeding the cats and
Oh.
and capturing them to take them to vets and things
Mm.
like that. So the cats actually did receive veterinary care,
What? That's
even
awesome.
though they were homeless cats.
That's actually really awesome. I'm a huge cat fan for those of you listening and that just really love cats. I love you if you love cats.
That's funny.
Oh my gosh, but that's super sad. Their like caretakers are gone now too, unless they set up like something somewhere for them to take them to, but yeah.
Well, I know they still take care of the cats because today I saw a cat trap in the bushes.
Oh, okay.
So I know that they still take care of them. Someone does.
Well, that does it for this topic. Let's see, this third and final topic. What would Walt think about Disneyland and just the Disney company as a whole if he were alive today? What are your thoughts on that?
Uh, oh boy. There's a lot of thoughts. Like the company as a whole. I'll start with the company as a whole.
Okay.
I think that there are certain things that he would really dislike. For instance, the company has a bad habit of creating tons of sequels to movies and things like that,
Yes.
and redoing movies. And I think we've even touched up on this before about how much we both hate Pirates of the Caribbean and how they do that.
Oh yeah, that's going to be a topic for another video also.
Yeah. So those are things that Walt Disney didn't like. He didn't like sequels. He didn't like repeating stuff. He liked to finish a story and let it be done. He wanted to move on to a new story and create something that no one's ever seen before. And Disney does do that once in a while, but then they go and create several sequels on it, and that's something Walt would not have liked. As for how Disney does their business, I think that Walt would probably say that there are too many theme parks. I know that sounds weird, that, why would he say that? But Walt Disney, once again, was one of the people that believed that Disneyland was all-encompassing, that Disneyland had everything that you needed in a theme park. And so adding other parks and creating these other parks, I don't think he would have really liked it. I mean, but then again, that was his old thinking. Maybe he would change over time. One thing's for certain, like when it comes to the parks, I read in a book, it was called Walt Disney: An American Original by Bob Thomas, and Walt Disney stated how he never wanted to see a Ferris wheel in his park.
Okay.
And it especially better not have Mickey's face on it.
Wait a minute.
And
wait a minute. There's a Ferris wheel with Mickey's face on it in California Adventure.
Yes, there is. Yeah, there is. And I was... So, when I was a young teenager and I had read that, I went, oh, man, like, he would have not liked California Adventure then because there's a Ferris wheel. Well, then they went and redid the park and then added Mickey's face to the Ferris wheel, and I knew, I'm like, oh my god, that's the two things that Walt said. Never wanted to have a Ferris wheel, and he never wanted to have a Ferris wheel that had Mickey's face on it, because he thought it was tacky, and he thought it was it didn't represent the Disney quality. The Ferris wheel has no storytelling. Ferris wheel has no excitement. So and then of course having Mickey on it is just a money grab, because people look at it and they go, I have to go on that because Mickey's face is on it. So that's why he really hated that. So he would have hated that part. Let me think if there's anything else about the company itself. I can't think of it, so I'll just say that at the moment, I think that the company, the way it's run, I think he would have been pretty much okay with it, except for the way that the way that the place, the command kind of goes. Okay. When Walt Disney was alive, he owned his company, right? Well, his company went public, and then it was owned by shareholders, and then it had a board of directors. And the board of directors was trying to run the corporation like any other corporation, that save money and make money, and Walt Disney was not like that. Walt Disney's thought was, if you spend money, you'll make money.
Yes.
And so a lot of times he would talk about how like the members of the board would go and try to chew him out for things that he did,
Mm-hmm.
and and tell him that that's not financially a good decision or something like that. And Walt Disney was known for taking risks, which
Mm.
is what made his company so amazing. Is the risks that he took ended up paying out. And so I think that because the company is run the way it is now, I mean, he wouldn't have any power to this day.
Yeah.
I mean, if it wasn't for him passing away when he did, eventually there would have been a hostile corporate takeover where they
Mm-hmm.
would have stripped him of his power in the company and taken over. So that's an interesting thing to think about. A lot of people ask me, let's just say if Walt Disney was frozen and then they unfroze him, would he have, would he be able to take his company back? And the answer is no.
Mm-hmm.
No, the company, he even had a separate company called Retlaw Enterprises. And that company, which is Walter spelled backwards, owned the rights to Walt Disney's name
Oh, okay.
because Walt Disney was afraid that eventually Walt Disney Productions would try to say that they own Walt Disney's name and he wouldn't be able to use it on anything.
Mm-hmm.
And this was a tactic that Walt Disney had come up with because back when Universal took his idea for Oswald, Walt Disney felt like he didn't own his own character.
Mm-hmm.
And because Walt Disney's name had become a character of its own, he was afraid that Walt Disney Productions would try to steal his name and wouldn't let him use it in the future if he decided to leave the company. So he created a private company called Retlaw Enterprises, which owned the Disneyland Railroad, the Mark Twain Riverboat, and the rights to Walt Disney's name.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting little fun fact.
That's crazy to think about. That he sold, or I guess didn't sell, but another company owned his name, so because he was afraid that his own company would... Oh, that's just crazy to think about. And I just wanted to bring up a little point about the Ferris wheel in California Adventure. I mean, Ferris wheels are tacky, yes, I agree, like you said, but I also it really butters my bread how when you go up the Ferris wheel, you can see outside of the park and see Harbor Boulevard. You can see all the businesses out there. I don't know, that just ruins the magic for me,
Mm-hmm.
And oh wait, I had something to bring up about regarding sequels. A lot of the sequels that Disney makes nowadays, I feel like they're good but not terrible, Back in the day when Disney just used to churn out direct-to-DVD sequels, like, who wants to see a Cinderella 3 where the plot is basically reversed? She doesn't marry the prince. I don't know why I know the plot to Cinderella 3, but I feel like they've really stepped up the quality when it comes to making sequels. That's just a little point that I wanted to bring up.
Yeah. I don't have anything to add to that, but that's a good point. I was gonna move on to what he would think of Disneyland.
Mm.
So I think that Walt Disney would like Disneyland overall. But here's an interesting concept to think about. All the roller coasters in Disneyland, except for the Matterhorn bobsleds, or actually maybe even Matterhorn bobsleds currently, Walt Disney would not have agreed with. Mm-hmm. Especially rides that basically any ride in Disneyland that requires you to be of a certain height to ride, Walt Disney would not have agreed with that, because Walt Disney wanted his park to be available to the whole family.
Mm-hmm.
So pretty much every ride that was around in his era, including Matterhorn bobsleds, you could ride any age. And when Matterhorn bobsleds was being constructed, he was against the idea at first because he said that, his park isn't an amusement park. And, and he told his Imagineers, well, if we have to have a roller coaster, then you better find a way to make sure that even young children can ride too.
Mm.
And so they came up with the idea of tandem bobsleds. So someone could sit in someone's lap.
Yeah.
And that way adults can hold their small children while riding the Matterhorn. And so the Matterhorn bobsleds became the park's first thrill ride, and it was available to guests of all ages.
Mm.
So that was that. And then came the idea of Space Mountain. I mean, Walt Disney had ideas for Space Mountain before he passed away, but the technology wasn't there to allow for both young children and adults to ride at the same time with the kind of thrills that were on that ride. I mean, they had thought about the use of tandem ride vehicles, but with the kind of thrills that they wanted to do, you needed to be able to see where you were going, so that way you could watch your children. So, in any case, thrill rides that require a certain height, Walt Disney would not have liked that idea. But overall, the kind of theming that Disney does in Disneyland Park, the way that it's going, I think he would have really liked it. I think he would have really liked the idea of the Indiana Jones Adventure and Star Tours, because rides like that are rides that the company was trying to find ways to wow people.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what Walt Disney wanted out of his company. It wasn't supposed to be technology for technology's sake. It was technology for the guest's sake. And that's exactly what he would have liked. So I think Disneyland, it's very well kept for what it is, and it's got amazing rides and attractions and looks beautiful. And I think Walt Disney would have been very happy with the way Disneyland looks now.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. Notice how he left out California Adventure when he was talking just now, but
Yeah.
Let's see. I feel like when it comes to rides that, you have to be a certain height limit. I mean, I understand, like you said, why they have to do it, because you can't let a 5-year-old go on Space Mountain unless they're... I don't know how tall the average height of a 5-year-old is, but you can't let small children go on Space Mountain, But I think we talked about this in a previous episode also. It's the fact that once you hit that height, it becomes like this big thing, like, Dad, I'm finally tall enough to ride Space Mountain. Do you remember? I think we talked about this, but yeah, and I feel like he would be content, like you said. I feel like there are some things that need to be worked on, like, say, Tomorrowland. But other than that, yeah, I agree with you. The park is really in a good shape for how 61 years old it is. Of course, there's like small little touch-ups that need to happen in certain places around the park, but I mean,
Yeah,
I don't. Oh no, go ahead.
Yeah, I think that maintenance-wise, he would be asking for more, because you look at rides like Splash Mountain, which constantly is either too dark or the animatronics aren't working, and so things like that, Walt Disney would not have stood for that. He would have been like, no, replace those lights tonight.
Yeah.
Fix this ride tonight. And things like that. But I mean, overall, I think that otherwise the rest of it he would have liked. I mean, Imagineers were worried in 1983 when they were redoing Fantasyland, what would Walt have thought? Because Fantasyland was originally designed to look a lot like, what would you say, like medieval kind of tents everywhere, and
Like a
I
fair.
forget what you would. Yeah, kind of like a fair, and um, and so, but I mean, people go, oh well, that's the kind of Fantasyland that Walt liked. That's true, but that's only because at the time they didn't have the money to redo Fantasyland the way that Walt would have really liked it. And I think that had Walt been alive today and looked at Fantasyland, I think he would say it looks beautiful. I
Yeah.
think he would say that it looks amazing. And so that's really what counts.
Yeah. I agree. Fantasyland is really beautiful. Like the buildings that they use to house the dark rides in, or at least the queues for the dark rides. I really love the style of architecture they went with. And let's see. I watched this YouTube channel called Fresh Baked. I don't know if you guys
Yeah.
have. Okay. um, the guy that hosts it, his name is Dave. He was talking in one of his episodes a couple months back about how he thought personally that Disneyland was Walt's big, just giant playground. He built everything there for him. He built a train. He had the Mark Twain. He had all these amazing things, and I feel like with some things like Star Wars Land, I don't know how I would think he'd feel about something like that, dedicating a whole land to just one IP, whereas Frontierland isn't dedicated to one IP. But
Yeah.
man, I don't know. What are your thoughts? Do you think... Okay, this is the question that's going to end all Disneyland discussions. Do you think Walt would like Star Wars Land?
Honestly, no. I don't think he would like it because Walt Disney was... Okay, so Walt Disney believed that you should give people the best, and and spend money where you need it, not just where you want it. But at the same time, he did not like to waste. And Star Wars Land is kind of... it's in a certain sense it's kind of a waste. I mean, you look at the Tomorrowland of 1967, which Walt Disney was, following along with it up until he passed away. He never got to see it, but he saw the plans and ideas for it. And one of the biggest things was how everything overlapped one another.
Yes.
You look at the People Mover weaving its way through Tomorrowland. You look at the rocket jets, which were placed above the People Mover track, and how you could go see the model of Epcot right above the Carousel of Progress.
Yeah.
So Tomorrowland, he wanted it to be a good use of space because Disneyland has so little of it. And you look at New Orleans Square, and it's also the same way. Walt Disney ensured that every little bit of space was used for some kind of purpose, was put to use. And unfortunately, Star Wars Land is a huge use of property, but it's, in a sense, when it comes to space and the way that they use it, it's very flat. And someone told me earlier, like, oh yeah, but even though you use the idea of New Orleans Square, look at New Orleans Square, it's always overcrowding. Well, yeah, that's true. New Orleans Square wasn't designed for as many guests that go through it as they do today. But that doesn't mean that it could have, that idea doesn't work. I mean,
Yeah.
Star Wars Land first of all, the biggest problem is that it's one single idea. It's Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
Walt would not have liked that in Disneyland because Disneyland was a magical realm that took you to an assortment of places and things, and each land was designed to share with you a tidbit of a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm.
So a Star Wars ride would have been good in Walt's opinion, but a Star Wars land would not. I think he would have thought it was just too much.
Yeah.
Um, and so besides that point, then you have the use of space, which, there's practically no underground for Star Wars Land. He would have wanted to see if development was about to happen to that property, he would have liked to see as much space utilized as possible. There would have been a big underground where there would have been maintenance and property management and stuff like that, all located underground. Like if Walt Disney had it his way, and you went underground underneath Star Wars Land, you'd probably see something a lot like what you see at Magic Kingdom with utilidors and all of the utilities and maintenance and things like that, all being located underground. And so Walt Disney would have liked to see that, because right now they took out a bunch of maintenance buildings and replaced them with only a few, and the rest are being located at other parts of the property.
Mm-hmm.
So really, they just scooted everything away to create space, and Walt would have liked to see them overlap everything, if that makes any sense,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I totally get it what you're saying, because the Tomorrowland of 1967 was total. The way it used the space was really smart, because for those of you that don't know, the Autopia goes over the show building of the submarines, and if that doesn't scream, I can't think of the word that I'm trying to say, but if that doesn't scream space used well, that's not the word I was looking for, but if that doesn't scream, yeah, what I said, then I don't know. It's just amazing about how they managed to do that. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree. Star Wars Land, totally flat. I mean, they might throw us a curveball somehow and have some and have some underground areas, but I don't think, from the models they've released and the concept art and from the construction, from what we can see, I don't think that's gonna be a possibility, unless it's just for Q, I don't see them using underground space in Star Wars Land for anything other than Q, because they're gonna need a lot of Q area for the attractions there.
Mm-hmm. I mean, and if people want more examples, I mean, you look at Fantasyland. You had the skyway that traveled over Fantasyland, using up the aerial space.
Mm-hmm.
You had Casey Jr. Circus Train, which wound its way up and above Storybook Land canal boats. You had the Viewliner, which weaved its way through Tomorrowland and up above the Tomorrowland boats, or the motorboat cruise, as well as weaved its way around Autopia. Autopia went above the submarine voyage, and then the Disneyland Railroad surrounded that, and the monorail overlapped all of that, using up aerial space. Walt Disney liked the use of space done well. Even the sky had to be used, and you don't see that with Star Wars Land. So, like you said, they could throw us a curveball, and there could be something else. But basically, what I'm trying to say here is, without anything underground in Star Wars Land, and with only 2 attractions for 14 acres of property, I mean, it would not have been enough in Walt's opinion. And then, of course, the fact that it's themed to one idea, which is Star Wars. I mean, the whole thing, Walt Disney, I don't think would have agreed with. It would have been one of those things that the board of directors would have been fighting over him.
Yeah.
With, the board of directors would have said, it's perfect, it gives us plenty of money, but Walt would have said there needs to be more, you know?
Yeah, and it's just sad that there's not someone with Walt's mindset, to run the company. I mean, Bob Iger is fine. I mean, I don't have beef with him personally. He seems like a chill dude, but yeah. I mean, yeah, that's all I had to say.
Yeah, no, I know what you mean. I mean, the thing is, I always think about the people that run the company, and they're people from other companies.
Yeah.
Like Disney is acting normal in the sense that they're acting like every other company. They're hiring people from outside the company to run the inside of the company. They are giving tons of money to their executives and making more profit off of running things cheaper. They're doing what any company would do. But Walt Disney would not have run his company that way. Walt Disney did not accept massive paychecks because he didn't believe in being this super rich person. I mean, yes, Walt Disney was technically rich, but he could have been 10 times richer with the amount of money that he was earning. But instead, he gave it away and he donated it to other things. Like, people like to tell me, oh, well, Walt Disney was a millionaire. Yes, in a way. He was a millionaire, but he never actually got to use that money because he went and spent it on opening Cal Arts, which is a school. He went and donated money to UCLA. He gave his money back to people. And unfortunately, today, with the company the way it's run, everybody is all about keeping their money. And, Walt Disney didn't want his company to be like that. The Walt Disney Productions was meant to be a different type of company, and the kind of cutbacks and things. I mean, Walt Disney would have, lost his head if he saw that it's, $4.75 for a churro,
Yeah.
He did not agree with the with making things. I can't think of the word. Making things harder for people to get because they don't have enough money, basically. And the things like we have on Disneyland Railroad, you have the Lily Bell, and it's inaccessible because you're not part of Club 33.
Yes, that makes me so angry.
Walt Disney would not have liked that either. Everything in Disneyland should be accessible.
Yeah.
And yes, he did have Club 33, but at least Club 33 didn't take away from the park at the time. Now today, Club 33 takes away a lot from the park. It takes away some experiences like being on the Lily Bell. It takes away the use of the Court of Angels.
Yeah.
And then pretty soon with the addition of a new dining room area up there, they're going to take away the use of the other court, the other little hideaway over at 21 Royal Street. There's a little hideaway there, so that'll become the new entrance to the new dining room that is specifically like a multi-million-dollar dining experience. So that'll be taken away too. Walt Disney did not agree with taking away things from guests because they didn't have enough money. Everything was accessible. I mean, there's a reason why Disneyland at the time, had an admission of $1. It was so that way, if you couldn't at least pay to get on rides, then you could at least experience the park. And so, I guess that's hard to say because, I mean, then again, if you lowered the prices at Disneyland, you'd see a bunch of like hoodlums and ghetto people coming into the park. So there is a trade-off there. So that's a different subject altogether, I guess. But yeah, there are certain things that Walt Disney would have liked and certain things he would not.
Yeah, I mean, those just small cash grabs that just seem so pointless, like blocking off the Liberty Bell, like you said, and Max Pass also. We had a whole separate podcast with the topic dedicated to talking about Max Pass, and I agree with you. I don't think he would have stood for charging guests to experience something that normal guests wouldn't be able to, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, maybe one day, hopefully, that'll change, but until then, I think that's going to do it for this episode. I hope you all enjoyed, and I want to hear all your guys' thoughts in the comments about what we said about Frontierland, about what extinct attraction you guys would bring back, and I want to know your thoughts on what you think Walt would have thought of Disney and just Disney as a company, or Disneyland as a whole. And be sure to check out Alex the Historian on YouTube. He'll be linked below. He makes really awesome videos. Be sure to support me on Patreon, and why don't you go ahead and explain how the viewers can support you?
Yes. If you want to support me and my Disneyland vlogging ventures, you can find me on a app that you can get on your phone called Venmo, Venmo. And basically, you just create a little account and connect your credit card or bank account to it. And then what you can do is you can just send me however much money that you wish, and it goes directly to me. And basically, like, me and my sister use it to share money a lot. So whenever she needs $20 or something, then I can just send it to her via Venmo. So it's an interesting little thing you can get on your phone.
Yeah, guys, you should definitely go out and support him so he can make more videos, because I know those annual passes aren't cheap, right?
No. No.
And I forgot to mention this at the beginning of the video, or at the beginning of the episode, but at the time of this recording, I hit 500 subscribers, and I just wanted to thank you all that have actually stuck around for this deep into the podcast. I wanted to thank you all for subscribing to me and for watching all my videos. And next week's episode of Historyland, I'll announce the giveaway winners, and right when the video drops, my new Matterhorn merch shop will be live, so all of you guys can buy as many shirts as you want. And yeah, that's gonna do it. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode, and have a great big beautiful tomorrow.